Hello, church. Welcome to week 5 of Summer at Heartland, and we miss you. Laurie and I are having an amazing time of rest. We can't wait to be back with you. But before we get into the message today, I want to let you know that in 2 weeks, we're going to do a special summer replay of At the Movies. This is a series where you have to be here in person because, unfortunately, we can't stream these messages online due to copyright reasons. But, this is one of the most popular series of the year. And whether you missed seeing At the Movies last year or you wished, wow, I'd love to see it again, maybe you'd like to share the experience with your family and friends, or maybe you just need to know this is what's coming this fall when we bring it back. Listen, in 2 weeks, you'll have that chance. On the weekend of July 6th and 7th, we're bringing back one of your favorite movies from our last series last year called The Greatest Showman. So don't miss it, spread the word. It's a great opportunity to invite someone who normally doesn't go to church, and I guarantee you're not gonna wanna miss it. So let me remind you now to take part in our annual Serve Day on Saturday, July 13th. I keep reminding you this is a special day where we're gonna demonstrate the love of Jesus in practical ways in our community. If you need more information, it's not too late to get into a small group or to serve with a group. So check out the Serve Day link on the homepage of our website, heartlandchurch.com, or you can download the Serve Day app and you can see all the projects that are closest to you. It's gonna be an amazing day of serving our city. Now today, I'm excited to welcome back someone who's no stranger to Heartland. Steve Arterburn is the founder and chairman of New Life Ministries. He is the host of the #1 nationally syndicated Christian counseling talk show, New Life Live. And I think like 3 million people watch that show or listen to it on Sirius XM every single week. He is the host of New Life TV. It's a web-based channel, and they're dedicated to transforming lives through God's truth. And if that wasn't enough, he is the founder of the Women of Faith conferences, which has been attended by some 5 million people. He's written all kinds of books. He wrote Every Man's Battle, Healing is a Choice, and my personal favorite, The Mediterranean Love Plan. Doesn't that sound interesting? Anyway, he's one of the funniest people alive and yet one of the most insightful authorities on human relationships. He and his wife Misty and their family live right here in Indianapolis. He's my friend. I'm so glad he's back. Would you please give a great Heartland welcome to Steve Arterburn.
Well, thank you. I love this church. I always feel sorry for the drummer jail over there. But other than that, this music, there's no better music around, I got to tell you. And of course, I love Darren, and he was my pastor for years, and he's changed so many lives, including my own. And this is a place where you can really trust that truth is taught, not with some hidden agenda, or it's just the way God means for it to be taught. And I love that about Heartland, and I love all the people here. Well, there's a couple I don't, but everybody else, I do. And when Darren says I'm funny, I think he means strange and weird, and that's kind of okay. That's all right. We'll see how that goes. But today, I brought some stuff, by the way. I brought Bibles and books. I've got a series of books on understanding and loving someone with, like depression, narcissism, attention deficit disorder. I'm married to Misty. She says that she could have written all of them. I take that as truth also. But anyway, they're back there. I'd love to meet you, and they're just things to help. And Every Man's Bible is back there, and that Bible is the #1 best-selling men's study Bible. And a lot of guys that didn't like reading the Bible have found that an amazing way to get into it. This morning, I want to talk to you about something that, well, Darren said you can talk about anything you want to speak on. And so I created a new message. You'll see the detailed outline there in your handout that I've created for you. But the title is Watch What You're Doing. Now, I have a mom at age 92. She's still driving, and she's always had a great way with words. She's the one that said, it's always something. If it's not one thing, it's another. And you never know, just kind of the foundation of life. On her 92nd birthday, I said, Mom, thank you for enduring the pain that you went through to bring me into this world. And she said, well, it was nothing compared to raising you. That's who she is. And she frequently had to say to me, watch what you're doing, because I do have a terminal case of attention deficit disorder. It was her fault I didn't get enough attention. Anyway, so she was the one that kind of gave me the idea for this message of watch what you're doing, because it really does matter in the midst of a trillion distractions. And you know, when God created Adam and Eve, he had a couple of things for them to watch out for. He said, don't eat the fruit and watch out for snakes. And they were not able to do either one of those things. And the only comforting factor is that if any of us had been there, we would have done the same stupid thing, and we do it every day. But I want to provide some truth for you. And in the first service where I spoke, I said, I want to sum up everything out of a passage of Scripture in 8 verses. And then this lady came and said, I only counted 7. I don't know how many verses there are, but it's 7 or 8 verses. I'll give you the whole Bible. I'll give you everything that you need to know right here from the very beginning. And it's in Colossians 1. And it begins in the 15th verse and goes on for 7 or 8 or 9 verses. But here it is. You tell me if this isn't everything you need to know in life. Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. For a lot of people, you know who the visible image of the invisible God is? It's your father. And if you had a crummy father, then you have a tainted view of who God is. So you have to work through that, because Christ is the visible image, not your dad. Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created and is supreme over all creation, which means he did not show up in a manger in Bethlehem. He's been here from the beginning. It's all about Jesus. Christmas is just the showing up part, putting on an earth suit, getting down here with us. Jesus was here from the beginning. He existed before anything was created, is supreme over all creation, for through him, that's through Christ, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things that we can see and the things that we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. What you see is not all that you get. This is the lower story. There's an upper story that makes all science fiction movies look weak, because what's going on up there with armies of angels fighting the major battles in this universe, we've never seen anything like it. In the end, you might have read this, we win. That's the good news. Everything was created through him, Jesus, for him. Jesus. He existed before anything else. He holds all creation together. That's Jesus we're talking about here. Christ is also the head of the church, which is his body. He's the beginning, supreme over all who rise from the dead. So he's first in everything. For God in all his fullness was pleased to live in Christ. And through him, God reconciled everything to himself. He made peace with everything in heaven and on earth by means of Christ's blood on the cross. This includes you, who were once far away from God. You were his enemies, separated from him by your evil thoughts and actions. Watch what you're doing. It matters. Yet now he has reconciled you to himself through the death of Christ in his physical body, and as a result, he has brought you into his presence, his own presence. And you're holy and blameless as you stand before him without a single fault. But you must continue to believe this truth and stand firmly in it. Don't drift away from the assurances you received when you heard the good news. The good news has been preached all over the world, and I, Paul, have been appointed as God's servant to proclaim it. If you believe that, there is no place in your thinking that Jesus was just a very good teacher when he showed up here. Jesus is everything, supreme over everything. There's no place for Muhammad, no place for Buddha. Paul preaches about Jesus like this. And Paul was taken up into heaven. He says, I don't know if I was in my body or out of my body, but there I was in heaven. The things that he saw were so fantastic, he can't even tell us all about them. And he came back here to earth, and he lived for Jesus. He preached the truth of Jesus Christ, and he died for him. He was tortured over and over for him. Now, let me tell you something. A guy like that, you don't go to heaven and see little Buddha statues or Muhammad or all these other things up there and come back down here and suffer and die for Jesus Christ, because Jesus is the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through Jesus. He's everything. If you believe it, we're going to be with him in heaven. And if you don't, I'm going to give you a chance to accept that reality today, because it changes everything in your life. And if you don't believe it, what a horrible way to live, trying to figure out the world yourself. I'll tell you something. I know a lot of great theologians, more brilliant than I will ever be, and they believe the truth of Jesus Christ and this Bible. They're not idiots. They understand true truth. They are not deceived. Well, today, here we are. After I've told you everything you ever need to know, I've got a couple of other things to share with you. Now, the opposite of what I just shared was presented to me by my 12-year-old son, Solomon, who said this. He said, Dad, here's what atheism is. That's what we believe. Here's atheism. He says, atheism is the belief that there was nothing, and nothing happened to nothing, and then nothing magically exploded for no reason, creating everything. Then a bunch of everything magically rearranged itself for no reason whatsoever into self-replicating bits, which turned into, he's 12, into dinosaurs. He says, that's what atheism believes. It makes no sense. Solomon, I agree with you, buddy. Today, you can be reconciled to God through what Jesus Christ did. But the thing here, that 21st verse that says that our actions separated us from God, it matters greatly what we do. Now, the first point I want to make is that actions are a very accurate reflection of the heart. A lot of times what we say isn't consistent with what we do. One guy was consistent. Someone said, sum up your life and who you are in 3 words. He said, lazy. Okay, so he didn't do 3. He did 1. He was lazy. That's consistent. But a lot of times you hear people preach or speak one thing, and then they do something else. You see them come to a place like this, they look really good, and then in the personal interactions, they are disasters. In relationship, they're horrible. 1 John 3 says this. In this 18, 19 verse, dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other, let's show the truth by our actions. Our actions will show that we belong to the truth. So we will be confident when we stand before God. It really does matter what we do. And a lot of people do things and they think it's love, but it's not love. There are a lot of people that, let's just say, when you're single, you love the romance. And you go from romantic encounter to romantic encounter, but you can never make the commitment because there's stuff that needs to be resolved. Most of you know that if you are in love with someone, if there's romance there, you are certifiably mentally ill. It is the only way that God gets us 2 strange things together, romance. But some people, they're stuck there. Other people, it's the relationship, the attachment. They would rather be attached to something sick than something or nothing at all. And so they'll just be in a relationship with anybody for any reason. And others are addicted literally to sex. And it's such a counterfeit. Intensity replaces intimacy. I'm telling you, if you love fruit, this is a great looking pear, isn't it? But I'm going to tell you, that's as fake a pear as you'll ever see. You could eat a lot of these pears if you love pears, and there would be absolutely no satisfaction whatsoever. More bad pears doesn't help. More bad sex. More crummy relationship doesn't help anybody. More isn't better. Quality is what's better. Counterfeit does not fulfill. And so we have to go from this fake fruit to the real thing. And the real thing is the way Jesus taught us to love. He is the standard to love, not this stuff that produces more emptiness rather than intimacy. Matthew 7:20 says this, Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, you can identify people by their actions. Now, does a fake tree produce fake fruit? No. Actually, people have like manufacturing plants to produce fake fruit. But the fruit, the result of what we do comes out of us because of our actions. We produce stuff in this world. And it's either great or it's not. And if it's not, there's something that we can do about that, and we can change it. It's never, ever too late. I talked about Darren and preaching truth, but there are false teachers all over producing fake fruit. And a bunch of fruit cakes is what's teaching. And how they get into this, I don't understand. They stand up like they believe in Jesus, but they teach everything but the truth of Jesus Christ. Toxic faith that poisons people's minds. You have to be careful what you listen to because it's just not true. The Bible tells us that, they'll say stuff that will tickle our ears or make us feel really good. And we've got to avoid it. We've got to protect ourselves so that it is true truth, not the false truth. So what is the outcome of your life? What is the outcome of believing the truth? Are you living the truth? The thing is, it's never hopeless, but you have to be willing to do something different than maybe you've ever done before. You might have to be willing to take a medication that you thought was evil, but a lot of really smart people have discovered it might be the only thing that gets the wiring or the chemistry right so that you can deal with the reality of your life. And for others, you might have to give up a few chemicals that have become quite popular in recent days. You might have to go see a counselor. My wife and I, we go see a counselor every week. We have a marriage counselor on call. We go every week. On Thursday, we take a dance lesson, and then we go counseling. And both work really well for us. If you were married to me, you'd want to be in counseling every week also. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's willingness. That's what God wants. Willingness to do whatever it takes to grow and gain strength. We have to be willing to do things out of love, not just say things. King Lear, Shakespeare wrote this line, "My love is richer than my tongue." Yeah, it's easy to talk a good game, but are the things that are coming out of your mouth, are they much louder than the actions coming from what you do for each other? A lot of talk in the Bible about different kinds of love. Agape love can't really achieve that, that's just so perfect. There's erotic love. We hear a lot about that in society. There's philia, there's friendship love. But how about this in your marriage? You got compassion? How about that kind of love? Compassion. That's a love. If you're mean to each other, what's going on there? Why are you doing that? Why don't you get some help so that your actions would be very consistent with driving up into a parking lot of a church on Sunday morning and worshiping God? Don't you think? Isn't it time that we quit talking about God and live for God? Because guess what? He's everything through Jesus Christ. Hey, thanks. Words. Well, let's look at the second point. Actions speak louder than words. That's not original, but the reason I use it and the reason it's trite is because it's so true. But here's the other part of that. But loud words have a real impact. And there are a lot of loud words going off in your head. Maybe you had sick parents that said some stuff to you that was really stupid. That maybe they told you were stupid or inferior, unworthy or whatever. You're not stupid. They were stupid. Let's just call it what it is. There are a lot of really bad parents out there. But we can never use them as an excuse for anything that we're doing because we can get over that. We can grieve the loss of parents that God intended for us. Hey, listen, if you were in the Garden of Eden, you wouldn't have had those parents. I don't know if you noticed, but somebody ate an apple. We ain't there anymore. This is not the garden. So don't expect things to be like they would have been if Adam hadn't choked. And we're all part of the Adam's family now. It's just reality of what we're dealing with. So actions are important. Words are important too. And it's important that we know what a person means. You know, there was a church, they just didn't understand why people didn't like their sign out front that said, "We love hurting people." They were close, you know. It's easy to misunderstand. There was a charismatic pastor, he believed in healing. A guy came down and said, "Pastor, I need you to pray for my hearing." Guy grabs him by the ears, casts out the demon of deafness. I mean, he's shaking him. The guy almost had whiplash. And, finally pulls his hands away and he says, "How's your hearing now?" He said, "Well, I don't know. I go to court on Tuesday and, I'll let you know how that goes. Thanks for that prayer." We can misunderstand things and not get it right if we don't listen. I learned this. I learned about words are tricky. Many people don't know this, but I was charged with killing, and I was in and this is a true story. This is not like what a lot of pastors tell. This is true. I was charged with killing, and I was in a jury trial before a judge. My future rested in the hands of a jury, whether or not I was innocent or guilty of killing. With 3 of my friends, as 16-year-olds, we were on trial for killing ducks after hours. And there we were in this county. If you pled innocent to a game warden's charge, you had a jury trial. It was incredible. So Tommy Davis, his dad was a dentist, so he was the attorney because he was the most educated. And we get up there in this court, and I don't know how attorneys talk. I don't know if there are any attorneys here, but you guys, never mind. Okay, so I'm on the stand, I get confused, and the attorney says this. "Mr. Arterburn." Well, I loved that. I was 16. Then he says, "Did you not kill those ducks after hours?" Did you not? What is that? Did you not? And so I go, okay, now if he had said, "Did you kill those ducks?" that would be no. Since he put a negative in there, "Did you not?" then and so I said, "Yes." And he says, "Your Honor, no further questions." So in the summation, he says, "And Mr. Arterburn admitted that he killed those ducks." And I'm going, didn't matter. So the jury goes out, they come back, and we're found innocent. Big old guy, farmer, about this big, comes up. He's got this Oshkosh by gosh on his overalls, big hat. He comes up to me and goes, "Boy, did you get a little confused up there?" I said, "I sure did." He said, "Well, today you got lucky because we hate that game warden. So we found you innocent." Anyway, we were innocent, but I'm telling you, did I not understand what the attorney, it's just weird. So words are important. We've got to understand what they mean to me, but you also have to understand what do they really mean to somebody else. That's why when it says in James 1:19, we need to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And sometimes as Christians, we need to James 1:19 ourselves. Because Christians say some really stupid things to each other. And sometimes we just need to be there. We don't need to have the thing to say. We don't need to prove that we know the Bible or whatever. In Women of Faith, there's a great speaker, Marilyn Meeberg, and her husband died of cancer. She said, "Steve," a woman came up to me and said, "Well, now you can be married to Jesus." That is so helpful. Have you ever lost a job and somebody says, "Well, God works all things together for the good." That's true, he does. But saying that at that moment, only someone who's foolish. And by the way, if ever a Christian says something really dumb to you and uncaring, the Bible tells you that you actually have permission to hit them. It's biblical. Oh, I'm serious. Look at this. Look at Proverbs 18:6. "A fool's lips bring strife, and his mouth calls for blows." So if someone is uncaring, hit them. Say, "Shut up." And then ask them to turn the other cheek and hit them again. You don't need to say stuff that's so dumb. I mean, really, let it go. Just James 1:19 yourself and don't say things that are uncaring. Proverbs 14:3 says, a fool's proud mouth becomes a rod that beats him. Boy, isn't that true? But the words of the wise keep them safe. So we want to look up to God, shut up, and love up to the level that Jesus has established for us, because it really does matter. What we do matters to God. Actions are an accurate reflection of that. Actions speak louder than words, but words have an impact. And since all that is true, third point, God has a plan and a path for each of us so that our actions and our words don't produce fake fruit, but produce amazing, transforming results in our lives and the lives of other people. Ever heard anybody say, well, you know, that's his culture? No, we don't do that. When you become a Christian, your culture means nothing compared to the value of the life of Jesus Christ. Well, that's the way his family. No, you don't use your family as an excuse. Your job is to get over your family. Families have problems. Insanity runs in families. It gallops in some families. I mean, we get insanity from our children. When kids are between the age of 13 to 19, parents age between 20 and 30 years in that short span of time. It's just part of it. Some of you are guilt trip travel agency result. Your parents, they ran the agency and they gave it to you, and you got to overcome that. I mean, it's important. A lot of times the grandparents are so in love with the grandchildren because they have a common enemy. And so we've got to overcome those kinds of things in family. Mark Twain said this: happiness is having a large, loving, close-knit family in another city. And so the reality is that it's tough, but you can't use any of that as an excuse. So what are you going to do? You need a plan. You need a path. And here's what it says in Jeremiah 6:16. Now, Jeremiah was a prophet. Prophets have to be 100% right or they're not prophets. When they spoke, they were speaking for God. So when a prophet says, this is what the Lord says, he's double dog saying, this is what the Lord said. Stop at the crossroads and look around. Ask for the old godly way and walk in it. Travel its path, and you will find rest for your souls. Maybe today's a great, wonderful day for us to stop at the crossroads, find God's path, and travel it. Not modern philosophy, not Eastern mysticism. I love this one. Not your truth. Oh my goodness. Well, this is my truth. You know what? I don't care about your truth. I care about your feelings. Your feelings have a point, but they are not the point. Truth is the point. And if your feelings don't align with truth, your feelings have a problem, not truth. You need to resolve, work through the feelings so that you can believe and live the truth. What is on God's path? It's humility, it's willingness, it's honesty, it's openness. God's path is surrender. It is essentially saying, I want to reflect on my life. I want to have redemptive relationships in my life. That's the path of God. And what's the result? Well, we do a workshop called Every Man's Battle from the book. And I asked some of the guys to tell me what was life like, and then now, a few years later, what's it like now? This one guy said, I broke my wife's heart, carved out her insides and her self-esteem. I made her feel worthless and second choice. Our entire marriage was a sham. I neglected our sons and broke a promise to myself that I would never, ever be like my dad. And so I said, well, what's life like now after you made the transformation based on God's truth, not the counterfeits you were living with? He says, I live a life that's connected and intimate. I live in honesty, vulnerability, and transparency. My wife is my best friend. I'm part of a community of men in recovery as a way of life, and I can't imagine how I lived without that. When we are betrayed, it is a horrible thing, and I have been betrayed. And when you're betrayed, the betrayer has a job to do, and you have a job to do. You have to deal with the pain of betrayal, and you have to get on the path to forgiving that person, not endorsing or excusing, but forgiving so that you can be free. And God tells us how to do that. I've been talking a lot about actions, but I just want to mention one final point here at the conclusion, and it's this: your actions will not earn your place in heaven. There is nothing you can do that comes close to what Jesus did on the cross. Nothing. I was doing a study in Galatians, and I came across this verse in the 4th chapter, and it says this: God sent him to buy freedom for us who were slaves to the law so he could adopt us as his very own children. I have an adopted daughter, 28, named Madeline. And so I thought when I read this verse, I understood what it was about. It's so wonderful. When Madeline filled out her essay for college entrance, she said, I was adopted at birth. But it seems as if it was always meant to be. That's the goal. And so I understood adoption from the perspective of nurturing a child. But when Paul writes about adoption in this verse, he's not talking about that kind of adoption. I found this wonderful book that explained adoption in the Greco-Roman society. They didn't adopt little children. I mean, sometimes they did, but it was really about, and what Paul's talking about, is adopting 18 to 30-year-old men. Now, back in those days, it was all about men in the Roman Empire, right? You see how well that worked out, the fall of the Roman Empire. But anyway, but a man could be, maybe he's 18, poor, but he's shown some leadership or strength, maybe in athletics or something. And one day he gets a text message delivered by papyrus, or whatever it is. And it says this: the man who has 10,000 acres would like to meet with you. And he goes up and he meets this man, and he says, I would like to adopt you as heir to everything that I have. Either that man doesn't have a son, or his son is going to destroy everything he's got. And so he goes and adopts another young man that he thinks can take whatever he has and make something out of it. Now, here's the thing about men back in those days. They ran everything. You could literally put your own son to death. You could disown your son. You could cast him out, whatever. You had all authority. But once you adopted a boy, you could not unadopt him. You could not disown him. It was permanent. That's what Paul's talking about. God has adopted us as those young men. And here's what the guy would say to that young boy: I am going to pay off every bit of student debt or loans that you have. They're all forgiven. I'll take care of it. I'm going to give your parents a ton of money if you'll let me adopt you. You will become my son forever. I can't reverse it. And everything that you see will be all yours. Talk about the lottery. That's what Paul was talking about when he said he has adopted you into his kingdom and he cannot reverse it. You're his children. And why do we mess around with all this stupid stuff when we have it all from God? Everything we could ever imagine as his adopted children. Maybe you've never accepted Christ, because that is the criteria to have it all. You have criteria for people coming into your home. God has criteria for people coming into his home. It's his Son and what he did on the cross. Now I'm going to give you an opportunity to accept Christ as your Savior versus your efforts and all the other stuff that we try to do. So I'm going to ask all of us to bow our heads right now. And maybe you have never received Christ as your Savior. Maybe you've never said the prayer I'm about to say and that you could repeat. But if you would like to be reconciled to God, if you'd like all of the stuff that you've ever done to be just washed away, your slate wiped clean, then just repeat after me. You would say to yourself inside, I don't want to embarrass anybody, everybody's head bowed, eyes closed. I accept you, Jesus, as my Savior. I know you died on the cross to pay the penalty for my sin. I cannot be saved of my own effort. I accept you, Jesus, as my Savior. I believe I am forgiven and free, and I will be with you in eternity. Amen. Now, Erica's going to tell you, if you prayed that prayer, what you can do after this. But I want to say this to all of us. I think today would be a great day to stop at the crossroads and ask for the old godly path. Find it, walk in it, travel that path, and you will find rest for your soul. And the fruit that comes out of your life is going to be transformational for you and for generations to come. Thank you for listening to a few of my words today. God bless you.